Florida State loses a heartbreaker in double overtime to Virginia. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into a special edition of Locked On Seminoles. This is the reaction show after Florida State's 38-46 double overtime loss to Virginia. I'm still stunned by not only Florida State losing, just how wild the game was. For college football in general, this is why you watch college football. The unexpected is the expected, but there were several points about the game that just made it crazy. And to be honest with you, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. If there was one thing I'm sure of, it was Florida State's defensive line would win the battle up front. And I could not have been more incorrect. They couldn't pressure the passer at all. Virginia's O-line, despite having a battered and bruised group, did a great job. I don't know which guys were truly healthy because, as I always say, there's no such thing as even a remotely accurate injury report in college football. But tonight, regardless of who was or was not healthy, tip your cap to the Virginia O-line above all else. Yes, they had some big passes from Chandler Morris. Yes, the running back. I tried to tell everybody, Jamar Taylor's legit. He will play in the NFL. The backup's good too. But it's the Virginia O-line that is, by a million miles, the MVP of the game tonight. Florida State destroyed Virginia's defense, which we kind of thought they would, but they bobbled their way figuratively and literally out of about 20 points. The drop by Deuce at the end is the one that's going to be talked about forever. But Florida State lost the game in the first quarter. They were lucky on the call with Danzy's fumble. I thought that was a catch, but Florida State caught the advantage there. The bigger thing is, though, they just didn't have the same focus as they did in the first three games. You can talk about calls and this and that. We can get into that later. I'll talk about that on Saturday and Sunday. I need to go through the film extensively, probably Sunday. I may or may not post tomorrow. We'll find out, but I'll go through it. But for those that want to complain about any one thing, and that's fine, Florida State has nobody to blame but themselves. Virginia played harder. Virginia was more mentally focused. And above all else, Virginia made more clutch plays. Again, FSU had over 500 yards of offense. Stupid penalties. Stupid. They should have got penalized on a couple others that they didn't, late hits, etc. And just poor ball handling early in the game got you down 14-0. Florida State lost because Florida State shot itself in the foot over and over again. Period. And then as far as physicality, Florida State offensively was very physical, but the defense, I don't want to say they played tired, but they couldn't tackle a dead man in the first quarter and a half, and it kind of extended on too. Even third quarter, Virginia made some plays, and of course, Earl Little's horrific attempt at a tackle. Jamar Taylor is not a guy you can just bump into. Even as strong as Earl is, Jamari's going to play in the NFL. You have to wrap up. F- for Florida State's tackling tonight in space. It was terrible, bad angles, etc. It was like the 2024 team at least crept into the overview of what happened. Why, I have no idea. That's why you watch the games, as the old saying goes, because Florida State played, again, pretty good offensively, and they even had some key defensive moments. How about at the end, Florida State doesn't get the first down. They get a 3-and-out. They stuffed them. They did a great job. They go into overtime. They had opportunities. They just didn't get it done. But Deuce has to catch that and all that stuff. But it should have never been in overtime. If Florida State even plays this slightly below average in the first quarter, they win this game probably by double digits. They just about couldn't have played worse outside of having a pick six in the first quarter. That is on the players. Not everybody likes to throw coaches under the bus because it's easier. This was not a coach problem. Norvell didn't fumble. Norvell or nobody else had the dropsies. Norvell didn't have stupid penalties. That is a player thing. Florida State's players were smelling themselves a little bit too much going into this game, feeling a little too good, and they didn't execute. And the defense wasn't good early on. It got better in certain moments, but again, tackling was shoddy, poor angles. The defensive secondary is on point. Like that pick late in the game by Jabril Rawls was off the charts incredible. That's an NFL play. Hats off to Jabril. He has come so far from when I met him when he was a junior in high school. I had a buddy of mine that runs, Dwayne Carter, does a bunch of stuff in Pensacola, was training him. I went and saw him compete, and I'm like, that kid's a Division I player. He can play wherever. He just kept getting better, though. More physical. He's smarter about how he plays. He's still really good. He had double-digit tackles. If I had to give an MVP tonight, it would be Rawls. Offensively, defensively, whatever, he would be my number one player for the Noles. He was very good. But again, Florida State didn't deserve to win tonight. 100% did not deserve to win tonight. And it's sad because they had over 500 yards of offense despite multiple turnovers, despite a drive being wasted because of a big pass interference. That play where Deuce pushed off, he got caught. They never call that. That guy decided to call it. I can't say anything because it was legit. Anyway, we'll get into that more later. But before I go into the chat, again, I'll go over more things after I see film. But there was one thing that was clear from the first quarter all the way through overtime. Florida State has one massive problem. And I brought it up about 10 times during this week during Locked On Seminoles. You know what that is? Can they rush with 4? And the answer is pretty simple. No. They're not a bad pass rush team. They are awful at pass rushing. They get none with pass rush. James Williams, I don't like picking on kids. He's the biggest disappointment out of all the transfers as far as talent and what they said and how many times they talked about him and being in the press. He doesn't get any pass rush at all. He was eaten up tonight. And to be honest, Florida State's got a big problem because they think they have problems against Virginia's offensive line. Meet the Miami Hurricanes next week. That might be, it's conservatively top 5 in the nation. It might be the best line in the country. It's a little early to pick one. But if Florida State can't rush against Virginia, a team that is literally battered on the offensive line, what are you going to do against the Canes? This is a problem. Tony White can't be expected to blitz on 75% of the downs to get to the quarterback. Doesn't work that way. And the secondary is good, but you can't cover all day. Florida State has missed for years at pass rushers. In other words, the 6'5", 215 kid that gets to about 240, 250, they don't have one. They don't have one on the roster that's ready to play. They do not have a single one. It will be their number one priority, guaranteed, in the portal this year. They need 2 of them. That's going to be costly, but that's a conversation for later. What I want to talk about right now, though, what did go right? Then we'll jump into the chat. I know there's I got 137 comments, and it's climbing. I won't even get remotely close to getting through the chat, but I digress. Number one, Florida State's got a lot of resolve. Tommy, the offensive line, Deuce, all those guys, they had their moments. And Deuce and Tommy got a connection that's kind of hard to define. Yeah, I know Deuce screwed up there at the end on the one play. It happens. But without him, they wouldn't have been in the game anyway. He destroyed Virginia's secondary. They're not great anyway, but he embarrassed them. Even against 2 guys, even get hit in the face mask, Deuce Robinson is flat out an NFL player. This is the last year he will be in college for a reason. Otherwise, though, like Florida State's running backs, I can't complain about any of them. They all ran hard. Even when Virginia started coming down, committing another defender to the box, they ran hard. Tight ends, Randy Pittman, the touchdown he scored at the end of regular, the defender was literally tackling Randy. They didn't throw a flag. By the way, just in general, college officiating is so bad. There were plays Florida State should have got flagged more. And that, I mean, the ref is literally looking at one thing. He is being tackled, and he didn't throw a flag. College officiating is a joke. These guys make a lot of money to leave the flag in their pocket. Guy's being tackled. If he hadn't caught that pass, I can only imagine what Norvell would have said in the press conference. At any rate, Randy caught it and went in overtime. Again, Florida State offensively, pretty good night, minus that just first 8 minutes or so was just terrible mental errors. So it is what it is. And it's a really sad situation because you put yourself in a terrible spot now. If you don't beat Miami, you're pretty much going to be in a spot, barring something very unforeseen, you have no shot to make the ACC title game. That's going to be a tough road to go. They have to win out. They have to win out. That's rough. When we come back, I'll jump into the chat. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's more than just playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and moving the game forward. I already said it a few minutes ago. Jabril Rawls was tremendous tonight for Florida State, even had an interception. He is a player that has taken to his craft. He's always had the athleticism and the length. It's a young man I've had a chance to know for a long time. Jabril Rawls balled out. He deserves all the credit that he received before, during, and after this game. So good job by Jabril. I think he was a very special player for Florida State. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like that, there's more with every highlight. There's also more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, let's jump into the chat. I'm just for reference, if I don't get to yours, don't feel bad. I've got 180 that I see on my screen. I'm not going to get to all these, but just going to jump in at like no specific spot here. It is what it is. This right here. I don't know who Delwyn Green is, but Delwyn, you're on the money, brother. You're on the money. Florida State's front seven was awful tonight. They didn't consistently tackle well. They got -5 million pass rush with 4. They did okay when they blitzed. By the way, Ashwin Barker is really good at blitzing. He's going to be a good NFL safety. He had 2 sacks. But Florida State just wasn't as physical all of a sudden. It was weird. Virginia, I mean, again, Taylor is a really good running back. He will play in the NFL. But you cannot just come up and not wrap up. You have to wrap up. This is 5th grade stuff. They just stopped wrapping up. I would like to see what the yards after contact are. I don't care what they are tonight. They'll go back through and look at it. It's going to be gross. Tony White is going to have a scream fest that can't be put on TV because of all the 4-letter words he's going to call everybody. A lot of 4-letter words. Repeat for about 30 minutes. You guys suck and you blankety, 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 blankety suck. That's what his comments are going to be when they do film review. I can tell you that right now, and it's deserved. They couldn't tackle anybody when they really needed to. Virginia always fell forward. They were more physical for the majority of the game. Yeah, and Florida State did have the 4th down drive. They got to stop when they needed. That was good, but that was the exception, not the rule. Florida State didn't live up to the expectations. They didn't live up to the standard, as Norvell often talks about, and they suffered the loss because of it. And I'm not just throwing this on the defense. Again, the offense destroyed itself in the first quarter. They're the one who put the defense in bad spots, but the defense didn't bail them out either. They went down the field on the FSU defense, boom, 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 and then scored, and then the same thing again. Then in the third quarter, what was it, a 15 or was it 16 play drives, 75 yards? They killed them a death by 1,000 cuts. 4 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards. 3rd down and 5, they'd get 6, whatever it was. The clutch team tonight was Virginia. It's just not even questioned. And I know everybody, well, there's a lot of people in the chat talking about coaching. This is a player problem tonight. I have thrown Norvell under the bus more than anybody in the world. This guy right here. And he's deserved it. He should have been fired last year. But what they've done this year so far, they're working with what they have. They do not possess a pass rusher. Virginia took advantage of it. But physicality and tackling technique, tackling angles, not committing stupid penalties at the wrong time, that's player stuff. They've already shown they can do the things they need to in the first 3 games. It was between the ears tonight that Florida State lost the football. Let's see. Moron with the post of the year. Let's see. Secondary is not good. Was we watching the same? What do you mean secondary wasn't good? When you have 1,000,000 years to throw the football, there are holes in every defense. They had 3 picks. Shut up. That is ridiculous to say the secondary didn't play well. Why don't they use Lucas more often on offense? That's a question I don't know. I would play more in the slot or 2 running backs. He is annoying to deal with because nobody's going to run with him in short space. That's a good question. That is from L Proof. Brother, you got a great question there. George, I am done with Florida State football. Waste of time and money. Goodbye, George. See you later, buddy. King Everett, the quarterback is Buns. Who are you? You're about an idiot. Bradenson Kane, if you're a Canes fan, I'm not going to post. You're an idiot. Goodbye. You're an idiot. Goodbye. Mark Perry, thanks for messing up our top 10 matchup next week. Congrats to their best rushing team, to the team that beat Bama. What a joke. Cupcake inflated that ego. Look, if you want to be Miami fans are going to flood in here. Let me make a quick statement about Miami fans. You are a bunch of homer jerks, idiots, and morons that come into these chats. And if Florida State fans go into yours, if they win next week, same thing. Morons, get out. I don't need you in here. See you later. Bunch of Canes fans. Yeah, I'm done with the chat. There's just too many idiots in here. I'm just going to comment and just kind of go on here. Number one here, with all the idiot brigade, Miami fans have the biggest bunch of losers in the world. It's nothing new. Anytime they have something go their way, they're all out. But as soon as their team loses a game, their stadium is 2/3 empty. Shut your holes. Next, Florida State's got to get their defense ready. They got to get their defense ready. It's obvious they weren't ready for this game mentally. They need to figure that out up front. I don't envy Tony for this next week because there is no magic elixir for you can't rush with 4. It's how the Eagles beat the Chiefs last year. Were they really better? Probably not, but they were so much better up front. The Chiefs were overwhelmed. They killed them in the Super Bowl. It is snowballed, and that's just the way it is. But at the end of the day, Florida State was so bad tonight. I looked at the stat sheet. It was late third quarter, early fourth quarter. Now, it doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but the live stat sheet that I had listed Florida State with 2 sacks, but they, besides the blitzes they had from Ashwin Barker, which worked, 0 quarterback pressures. 0. That's hard to do. That's not even an F. You're not even grading on the scale. You're not even grading on the scale. And this was a Virginia list. Like we talked about this, and it came up on ESPN and a bunch of other things Thursday, Friday before the game. They had 5 or 6 different offensive linemen throughout fall camp and early season that have been injured that were still on the list in some capacity. And their starting center, a really good player, didn't even play. This is on Florida State players. Players. Period. I know there's a bunch of people complaining in the chat. It's what they do. Everybody likes blaming coaches. I am the first one that'll jump in that boat when it's needed. This is not a Norvell problem, not a Tony White problem, not a Gus Malzahn problem. 100% on Florida State players. It is incredibly rare for me to say that. This was between the years. Even though they got up 21-14, they let them right back in. They got soft on defense again. They gave up that early third quarter. Missed field goal, right down the field. Boom, Virginia takes the lead. Yeah, you would have liked to have scored there, but for the love of mankind, defense has got to step up there. And then the offense didn't help them out. They were annihilated in the first 5 to 7 minutes of the game because they shot themselves in the foot more than they were annihilated, really. And then in the second half, when they got the ball, they moved the ball down the field, drive stalls, field goal missed, unfortunate. But then your defense didn't do anything, and your offense really struggled thereafter in key moments too. It's just the clutch plays over and over again went UVA's way. And they created them. By the way, I knew Chandler Morris could run around a little bit, but he's faster than I even remotely thought. He could scoot. I didn't think he was going to run RPO down inside the 10. I talk about guys always saving plays and saving situations, and coach say, oh, we don't do it. They all lie. Nobody thought he was going to run it that much. Not that he'd ever not run it before, but that was insane. Well done by Virginia staff. They called a really good game with what they have. Florida State limited Trey, like their receiver, quite a bit. He's really good. He didn't have a big game. He only had 3 catches. Morris completed passes to 9 different receivers. I know he made some boneheaded decisions, which is what Chandler Morris has done throughout his career. But overall, he's pretty darn accurate. He really is. And I give him credit for it. Florida State didn't have an answer. And above all else, most important thing to note, he's a guy that goes out there and he wipes it off, good play, bad play, or indifferent, and he goes on to the next. That's what graduate students should do. And Chandler Morris is a grad student. Tommy did that for the most part too. That 4th down throw for the touchdown to Pittman, Joe Montana in his prime would have tipped his cap. I don't think he'd have thrown it any better. Quarterbacks made some great plays today, and it was a lot of fun to watch. I'm going to close out on this. I'm going to watch the film tomorrow. I may or may not post more. Depends on how much I get through. But there'll definitely be something for Sunday. If it's not tomorrow, it's kind of weird that we got a Friday night game. But I'll just leave on this. Florida State football has got a decision to make as players. Take the coaches out of it. If you're a Florida State player, you need to listen right now. You all lost the game tonight in the first quarter. You weren't as focused as you needed to be, period. That is not a coach problem. That is a player problem. Either you figure that out or you don't. If you don't figure it out, you won't lose next week to Miami. You'll get crushed. Miami is way better than Virginia. Virginia is pretty good, but they're not in the same stratosphere as Miami. Your season's on the line next week if you're talking about major postseason. You guys are going to go to a bowl, and that's great. You're way better than last year. That's great. If you want to make a marked improvement and show yourselves to be a national program, you got one chance. You got to go beat Miami next week. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm picking Miami, barring something crazy happening. Carson Beck falls and breaks his ankle this week. I'm picking Miami because of how y'all played tonight. You deserve it. I was probably going to pick Florida State, but the way you played tonight, why would I? You have to play better emotionally and be ready and actually go out and tackle somebody. Go out and execute without pushing off on a 3rd down, etc. Like just mental errors killed Florida State tonight. Nobody to blame but themselves. So thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We will see you again soon.